Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're joined again by Stewart Marshall. Stewart Marshall joined us on episode 7 way back, probably early last year, I believe it would have been, give or take. Stewart's, you can call him Mr. SaaS, commercial software strategist. He's been in software 20, 30 years, I believe, building commercial software products. And he's looking at helping SaaS entrepreneurs realize their software dreams. It's a challenging space, and we're just here to talk a little bit about that and what he's learned over the journey and just build some awareness around building tech product. Stuart, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me back.
It's a pleasure. So what's the world of SaaS look like at the moment for you?
It's spectacular. I'm in the right place at the right time for once. 52 years old, 30 years in the industry, and finally I'm in the right place. It's a crazy world. Everybody is writing software.
I know it's a good place to be in right now. I think one advantage of being in tech is, yes, everyone is doing something in this space right now or looking to. And that brings a lot of challenge, right? So in terms of what we've noticed in the industry, everyone's jumping in, want to build their own product, look at how they might evolve the way they're doing business, different business models, the joys of COVID, really, the challenges we've had there, but people are starting to shift and think differently. What have you found over the past sort of 12 months in terms of the way people are shifting business models and maybe commercializing some IP?
Well, so COVID has been an extraordinary gift to our industry, in truth. For all the bad things of COVID, and they are many, one of the things it has done is it has forced digital transformation upon Australia.
It has.
I spent whatever it was, sort of 12 months trying to get into the mid-tier and get them to do exactly the sort of things that they've been doing in the last 12 months. Mm-hmm. And there was a level of apathy and kind of, she'll be right. And suddenly now we've got no choice. The number of lawyers who, if you'd spoken to them this time last year and said, how do you feel about digital signing of documents? They go, no, we've got to have people in the building. They've got to come in. We've got to see it. Blah blah. It's amazing. Funnily enough, now you can do it.
Yeah, of course you can.
Everybody's happy. They're just well, look at the problems we've solved, aren't we? Good.
I'd say accountants probably had the same issue.
I just got back from our accountant, and he basically said they now print, luckily, 10 pages a week of paper. He goes, all they used to print off was reams and reams of paper, and the whole model's had to change. And he finds that now they can work anywhere because of just those decisions that they've made and the way they do things differently. It's crazy.
It is, but it's a good thing. It's dragged us, whether we liked it or not, we've been dragged kicking and screaming into the modern era. And the old normal is no more. Quite what the new normal will end up being is still up in the air. But the world's changing. We're beginning to make the best of it. The interesting thing about the SaaS world is that it was charging along, getting bigger and bigger at a fairly sort of steady rate. It was about a 25-30% increase year on year over the last over the last decade. And this year, the numbers I've seen look like about a 50% increase
in SaaS product
in terms of a number of products and the amount of money being spent. Something I think 150 billion, 156 billion, something like that, being spent on online software.
Yeah, it's a big shift, isn't it? So
it's huge. It's just a monster world.
And then
it's needed, really, to be able to operate the way we can, because we can as well. Like if COVID hit, say, 20, 25 years ago, what would have happened to more businesses that couldn't actually go online because there was no online to go to?
Well, we wouldn't have had the choice, and we would have had a lot more dead people. Is the reality. We'd have shut down businesses at... when we wouldn't have been able to do it.
That's also positive, isn't it?
Wasn't even, say, 10 years ago would have been a struggle.
Even 5 years ago, it would have been a problem.
Yeah, I think we've evolved so far with the with online and cloud and everything hosted offsite. And,
as much as we all bemoan the NBN, and pretty much rightly so.
Yes.
The reality of it is that had times been different, had we gone for the gold-plated model that we really wanted, and fibre to every house, we wouldn't be in the position we're in today. So they've been lucky, I think is the best way to describe that.
Yeah.
It's a nice bit of luck. I mean, it's a good bit of fortune. We're all better for it. But there's more to be done yet. Well, we'll have to spend some more money on that.
With that big increase, obviously we've been around the space for a little while, building tech, and you've obviously been here 30 plus years now, building tech. What are some of the challenges when people are investing that amount of money that quickly into an industry that can be a little bit up and down and hit and miss at times? Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, the biggest problem that most people face is that they come into this industry with no knowledge of software whatsoever. And the vast majority of SaaS founders today are domain experts. They've come out of industry. They've got a piece of knowledge. They've had an insight. They think, right, I can make some money. I can sell that idea. I can build a platform that will deliver a solution that a whole bunch of people will benefit from it. I can make a decent living. And they're not looking to buy an island. They're not. They're not that sort of. They're not looking to be the next Zuckerberg. But they think, well, I can make some money, make a living, and whatever it might be. And they come into the business and with no understanding of the magnitude of the world they're walking into. And this is the value that people like me offer, and the same with the work that you guys do. That helping people understand that this is an expensive game. It's not like opening a shop. We can open a shop in the high street and put some stock on the shelf. Cost us $50,000 to get in, let's say. Lease stock on the shelf. We open the door and we make money on day one. Might not be a lot of money, but somebody will walk in the shop, somebody will buy something, we'll make some money. In the SaaS world, we come into it and we sit down for 6 months and pour money into a hole.
Without knowing if you're going to get out, right?
And then we go to market and there's no guarantee that people are going to turn up. And if you get into the big spaces, I mean, you get into the big markets, CRMs, according to Capterra, there's now 4,000 registered CRMs or known CRMs.
That's a not very competitive space, is it? Let's build another CRM.
The mad thing about that was the last time I looked, there was 3,700.
So 300 have been built in what? So 2 months?
A 10% increase in the number of CRMs in a matter of months.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
I mean, I don't think they've all suddenly been made, but they found their way onto Capterra. And I mean, there's no discussion point as to whether a CRM is valuable. I mean, it's the maths they talk about, something like for every dollar invested in using a CRM, you make 5 to 8 if you use it well. So it's a great market. Everybody can benefit, and there's millions of businesses worldwide who'll have one.
Correct.
But hang on a minute, there's 4,000 of things. So who, if you're building one, who are you building it for? And that's what problem you're solving that isn't already solved.
Yeah, I'm guessing a lot of those are they're doing it for themselves, and then they think they can turn it into a product.
Potentially,
I think there's a lot of that goes on.
And I think that's the challenge with online too. There can be 4,000 real estate agents across Australia, and there's no issue with that. But online, everyone can access it from anywhere, and that's the biggest problem. And then it all just ends up at a top end, and the top end gets most of the pie, and then everyone else gets little dribs and drabs. Unless you're niching and you're doing something really specific, it's tough.
Depends, because the top end ends up charging for
the top end price,
so only the big corporate can really get there. So you go for a top tier Salesforce, you're not going to get every small business jumping into that.
No, but then the thing is though that niching is the crucial topic here, because if we're going to make some software, then we're making it for somebody. We should have a target. We should have a target market in mind when we start building it. Otherwise, what are we building?
I was having a chat to someone the other day, and they basically said, I was in a client conversation actually, and he asked the question. He goes, "What's your target market?" And the client goes, or the potential client, he goes, "Everybody." He goes, "Everybody, yeah, fall off your chair." Exactly. And we're both shaking our heads. And he asked a pertinent question. He goes, "Granted, everybody can use your product. However, if you're going to market this thing out, you cannot market to everybody on the planet. Yep. Who are you actually going to target and market to?" That's a very different point. And I think, everyone gets a little bit lost in the tech space that, everyone can benefit from it, but that's not the way you market a product out.
Even
you can't market everybody.
The same kind of issue. We say we can develop software for anyone, any software for anyone.
Yeah, it's an issue. I can't
market that. I can't tell that to people because that doesn't mean anything to them.
Correct. Yeah.
Technically, it's possible.
But also in terms of the work we do in the development space itself, if if you're coming in to build software, then most people haven't got an unlimited budget. Most are coming in and saying, well, I've got $100,000 I've got to spend to get an MVP out the door and get some customers rolling in. That's my $100,000 budget. So, and that's a tiny amount of money, right, in real terms.
In this game, I think people aren't aware what is actually needed, to build commercial product. Unless it's doing one little feature really well, it's big money,
Yeah, and so you say, well, okay, well, in that case, if you're going to talk to a target audience, you better know every single thing about that target audience, because that's the software you're going to make. You're going to make something very specific for them.
Correct.
And this idea of niching being a marketing thing is true, obviously, but it's really important in the software side of things when you're actually doing the build, because it's going to affect my favourite topics of training, help, and support. Because you're going to be focusing on an industry or a very tight vertical, or a very tight horizontal niche, whichever it is, and everything you produce has to support those people, and it has to use their language and be specific to them. So if you're not niching from day one, pretty much, then you're setting yourself up for a lot of pain later in the piece.
The niche drives your tech, right? So from a product perspective, you mentioned that domain experts generally come in. What have you found when a domain expert's coming in a specific area? I figure that would be a little bit easier to niche. What I find is some people just come in with ideas off the back of an industry they don't understand, or an area they don't understand. I think that becomes really challenging.
It's just the problem they faced in it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to all manner of people in the last 12 months. And one guy, no experience whatsoever, but built as a tech guy getting into business, and he built a platform to help recruiters ask questions of potential employees. And so, well, okay, I did a quick search for him. I found another 100 of them, and said, "Who are you helping?" And he went, "Oh, well, I don't really, I hadn't thought about that." And you're like, well, I mean, he was a tech guy, so all he'd invested was his own time and energy. But unless you have this focus, unless you know the problem you're solving, and it's my sort of standard first two questions to everybody is, whose problem is it, and what is it? Name the problem and name whose problem it is. So if you can tell me those two, then we've got a conversation that we can start.
Yeah, I think I find a little bit interesting. There's like having a bit of chat offline where the main expert might come in and they've got a whole new world that they're opening up into from a tech perspective, and that's one challenge. But then you've got the tech person that just can build anything. That's another challenge because they just pick an area and just build something. And I've seen that many a time. So where would you, how would you see it from closing the gap? Because you need both of those people in a room really to make anything work. And you have to be working off the customer. You have to be evolving the technology with the customer. I think that's a cleaner, smoother approach. And niching obviously helps do that, because if you're building for everybody, your text is going to be pretty bland and boring and then deliver very bland and boring results, really. So how do you mold that, and what do you recommend to people who are just tech or just domain experts? What should they be doing?
Practically speaking, domain expertise is where you start. Because without that core focus, without that core knowledge. So, I mean, it comes back to the three types of SaaS business, which is, the horizontal ones like Facebook, Gmail, and whatever. These are very broad market things, millions of users, whatever. Low value, very high volume. Then you get the horizontal, the vertical ones, which are the specific industry specific stuff like CargoWise, WiseText, CargoWise, and Atlassian, Jira, and Confluence, and so on.
Yeah.
They're relatively expensive to buy, and so on. And then you get this, what I refer to as the service SaaSes, which are the platforms that people are building to go above and beyond the delivery of software. So it becomes something wrapped around the software. It's not just a platform where people go on, interact with it on the browser and done it. There's more to it. There's a greater product idea. And that's really the sweet spot for domain experts. Where there are services over and above, because that's what they know. That this idea of a completely self-service model doesn't, in practical terms, isn't really what most people want. Most people want an outcome and a result, and the software is just part of that answer.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get the domain experts come in, what need to do, and what I spend a lot of time with them doing, is understanding of the value proposition that they've got. Because when they understand the value, then they understand the sort of money they can charge for it because of the outcome it will produce. And then they can get into a world where they can start to engage with technologists to say, well, here's where you fit into a bigger piece. This is the piece of the story that I need you to make for me. That's a much easier path.
Yeah, it's the domain expert generally can solve problems. I think that's interesting how you look at it from a service technology piece, and sort of adding value from that perspective. Then it's not just technology, right? It's a business and it's a model and it's support. I think everyone wants the ATM machine, but the ATM machine in reality is few and far between, really.
Well, if you think about it, one of the challenges that most software buyers face is much, much bigger than a piece of software will ever deliver an answer to.
Agree. Yeah.
The software is only. I mean, software is. You and I will both spout ad infinitum. Software is just an enabler.
Yes, correct.
It's a tool. Its purpose is to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about digging sticks a lot. We understand the purpose of a piece of technology, and let's take it back to the simplest form we can pretty much find, which is a piece of flint or a digging stick, and it has a job. Its job is to dig, and the clue's in the name, right?
Mm.
So the same with a piece of software. We make software to solve a problem. But those problems don't exist in isolation. They exist in the wider context of a business or an individual person's particular life. And the vast majority of the situation, people really just want the problem solving. So to actually make the software and implement it, and implementation is everything, right? Then we have to have training, help, support, boots on the ground if necessary, a whole series of things wrapped around the technology to really get the maximum value from it. The technology is just a part of a wider solution for most people.
It's the same thing as the drill and the hole. They want the hole, they don't want the drill, right? And no one wants the technology.
They don't even want the hole, right?
Yeah.
Well, what they actually do, what they really want, the kudos from the wife for putting the shelf up.
Yeah.
That's where when
it's
you
the outcome. Follow the journey through.
The outcome. What they really want is the wife back said, well done, sweetheart, very good, I'll make you whatever cliche we want to go with.
Yeah.
And it's that idea. We've got to get beyond this sort of simplistic view.
And I think that's a good way to frame it, because the last thing I want is new software sitting on my machine that I have to interact with and do something with. And I think everyone has that sort of stickiness into buying new software too, because there's new learning, there's new engagement, there's you have to invest time as a user.
It's disruptive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, and I think
people hate it.
Yeah, no one enjoys change.
People scared to death of change.
Yeah, but then if you don't,
and we make it worse, though, right? Because we're members of one of the worst industries in the world.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. We're in it together. Okay, it's all right. But we're part of an industry that historically has overpromised and underdelivered.
Oh, yeah, considerably.
And continues to do so, right? I mean, I've spent my career trying not to, but undoubtedly I'm sure I've played my part here or there.
Yeah.
And so there is still a great level of distrust.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chat with a guy, and his CTO, roughly equivalent of a reasonably large business, 70 million business, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me that one of the directors of his business, 70 million business, said to him, the trouble with technology is you don't know how much it's going to cost. If you use people, you do.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've no idea how that guy's allowed to be a director, but
that's interesting. Yeah, okay.
It's that mindset. We still, because a lot of the people who are decision makers grew up when they were a similar age to me. They're late 40s, early 50s, and they grew up technologically in the Windows 95 days. When we had plug and play, which everybody referred to as plug and pray, because you never knew whether it was going to work or not. It was this sort of Wild West time, really.
Yeah.
Right, a lot of we look back at the first iterations of internet banking, and the trust component was just completely lacking. People were frightened to go on and do internet banking for fear that somebody was going to come along. There's a bit in The Simpsons where he's at Homer's at a cafe, internet cafe, doing his online banking, and whatever, forget the guy's name now. He comes in and puts the diskette in, and you see all the funds disappearing out of the bank again.
I agree. I think that's what people were scared of, right? Especially back in those days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you may raise a good point there. In the business world, people that are directors are generally a little bit older and maybe not as technically savvy. And one of the advantages, one of the positives of COVID is they had to make decisions and shift and learn. And I think people have learnt that there are different ways of doing business. Yes, I think that's one of the major positives that has given the industry a bit of a leg up in terms of where it needs to go and what the advantage of technology are. But also, there's still a lot of risk, especially if you're building your own product.
The big sort of fear that I have, I guess, at the moment is that there's a lot of people out there. The trust component is completely low, and they're doing enough. They're just advancing enough to sort of keep the wolf from the door at the moment. And as soon as the lights come back on properly, and as soon as everybody's vaccinated and the world starts to open up again, in the next sort of 18 months or so, they'll be like, "No, I did enough. That's it. That's me."
Yeah, okay.
And there'll be no further investment because it will be perceived as, we did this 2 years ago during COVID. Gosh, we don't need to do anything else now.
If you can make it through that, you don't have to touch it.
And that's all fine, right? And I get that people are like that. But we're in the middle of a technology revolution, the likes of which we've never seen before. And it's just beginning. We're just beginning to ramp up. Quantum computing is not so far away suddenly, and the world is accelerating, and staying still is costly.
I don't think anyone can afford to stay still of what we've learned. So, in terms of the technology advancements, it's happening in every industry. Every industry is getting disrupted in one way or another. Some of our biggest industries of the world are getting disrupted. The finance spaces with what's going on in that world.
Oh, yeah.
Finance is mad with distributed finance and all the coins that are popping up on that world. It's all still a cowboy industry, but it's
just that. It's the AIs and the computing and all the other stuff trying to do all the trades that people would scream out numbers at people on the stock market floor to do the trade instead.
And then
all of that will get replaced by just a couple computers.
Well, yes, it already is getting replaced by computers everywhere. There's bots doing all that stuff these days already.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the? Have you ever seen any of Tom Scott's stuff on YouTube?
Tom Scott? No, I haven't. Yeah.
He's quite an interesting guy, and he's done one which I'm sure it's him about a particular exchange in the US, and they've got 30 kilometers of cable coiled up that they've had to put in place to slow down the speed of transactions.
You're kidding?
No, seriously. Because machines are so quick now.
Yes.
I forget the exact reason of this, but they've literally got this big coil.
Just to slow down by milliseconds.
Just to make sure that it slows down the transaction by 500 milliseconds or whatever it might be.
Yeah, wow.
So that normal people can interact at the same speed as computers. I forget what the reason is, but it's along those lines that there's a physical barrier in place.
Crazy.
But it brings up this idea of AI and what I refer to as the arms race, which in the AI space is a real problem because at the moment everybody's making huge gains. And we're getting cleverer and cleverer, but it's still just good maths, right? I mean, that's largely what this boils down to: good maths and good text parsing. And the problem we've got now is that if I create a piece of AI that analyzes the markets, let's say, and I say, well, look, over a typical investor, I can get you a 5% increase. That's brilliant, right? Fantastic. I'll take that. The trouble is that I'm not in this game on my own.
Correct.
There's 200 competitors all doing the same thing and all making circa 5%. And next year I'll be 5.1 and they'll be just a tiny bit less. And that gap is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller every single iteration, every year. And eventually they're going to run out of reasons to say that they're the best.
And you end up back where you started.
And everybody's special, right?
Yeah, correct.
And then this speaks to this fundamental issue we have in the technology space, which is people trying to sell technology when that's not really what we should be selling. What we should be doing is selling the outcome that the technology produces, rather than specifically talking about the technology. And then if we're doing that, then we're really talking about the nature of our business and how well we help people, rather than the tools we use with which to do it.
I think that's what smartphones have sort of done. They don't sell you on the phone anymore. They just sell you on the camera. That's 99% of what people use it for, is take photos.
Yeah. Take photos. I've got a 14-year-old daughter. She's continuing on Snapchat.
Yeah. Well, at the start, they were like, all right, how small can a phone get? And that was the selling point.
I know.
We can make phone calls, you can send messages, and how small can we get it? Now it's
brick again.
How big can we get it, and how good can the camera get, not what's in the phone. I look at the tech specs, but how many people actually do know what they mean?
Well, I don't. I'm in the industry. I couldn't give a...
I'm the same. I just grab a phone. Screen's
it
good.
Rings, I send
camera's
messages,
good.
I the internet. That's about it.
Yeah, that's all you do, right? So I think you mentioned something there about outcomes. And in the end, that's always the focus point. And I think one of the advantages of being in a service-based industry is, from us coming into the business, into this world, is being in a service industry, you're all about looking for outcomes and solving problems. When you get into tech, it gets very easy to start talking about features, functions, and what this thing does. And I think you need to sort of separate that, because in the end, the features and the functions are great, but how are you helping the consumer? How are you helping the person using it? And that's where the conversation needs to stem from and lie. And that's, look, I don't know if you know, but we've got a SaaS product in the pharmacy space. One of the advantages we've had is we will work with the customers to understand their problems and evolve the product with them. And I think not many tech businesses or SaaS businesses do enough of that. And I think that's some of the challenges that I see in the industry.
It's a big problem. And this is really to do with the way in which we've been selling software historically. So way back when years began with a 1, I was doing tech pre-sales. And it was okay, because there were only 3 of us. There were only 3 in the 3 businesses that we had to worry about. It was ourselves and 2 competitors. So the conversation about features and benefits is a legitimate conversation.
Yes, true.
Because we do this is what we've got, this is the value. And people go, oh, yeah, I can work that out. And so on. We fast forward to today, and as we were saying, there's 3,000 CRMs. Now, if we start looking at them, they're going to look very samey very quickly, because how many different features can you have? And the analogy I use is cars. At no point in the next ad you'll see for a Toyota will it tell you that the car's got 4 wheels, a gear stick of some sort, some seats, an ashtray.
It's all assumed knowledge, right? Yes, correct.
Because all cars have got the same features. So people aren't buying the car because it's got an extra cup holder, because every car's got a cup holder. Everything, they're all the same.
Yes. So
the brand value and the ideas and the emotional attachment that we put on things is really where the selling space is now. And software is going to have to go down that path. It's a regular part of the conversations I have, where we're saying, well, look, how are you going to sell this? If you're going to say I've got these features, then you're going to lose, because the big guys have got more.
They do have more. And then if you have a feature that's unique in that rare instance, someone else is going to build it pretty quickly. Anyway.
It doesn't take long to copy.
No, it's easy to copy in this world.
And apart from which, how many potential clients are really interested in buying one unique feature?
None, really. Yeah,
basically none.
Yeah.
And which is, and the flip side of that, of course, which is when you try and sell something, people say, but you haven't got this feature. But
yeah.
Do you really think that all the other features that you have got are outweighed by the one that somebody says you haven't got? To which the answer is no. I mean, the value proposition is still the same. So the subject matter is about value and emotional attachment. And Grammarly is a great example of this. If you want to see what the Grammarly ads, the niche is really clear because they're aiming at the sort of 20-somethings. And it's always somebody who looks a little bit confused and then uses Grammarly and is suddenly beaming.
Yes.
And these sort of subtle undertones of they're going to help you get the job or the promotion or get laid or whatever, whatever you need to write for. That's what Grammarly is going to give you this outcome. It's not actually about it's nothing about the AI that Grammarly's got in the background that works out. They
don't sell that at all, do they?
No mention, nothing about tech.
And that's what people need to get their head around. It's in the end, it's all about sales and marketing, like anything else. How do you market it? How do you position it so you're impacting that buyer that is actually the niche consumer that you're targeting? And once again, to market to everybody, Grammarly's got a target market. You just said they've all got a target market. You can't target to everybody. I think that's where a lot of people get lost in the space too. It's just, features and then target to everybody and hope for the best. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the phrase I use a lot is if you're looking at the technology, you're missing the point. And this is back to the domain experts. I think all SaaS leaders, that they're in love with the technology.
They are.
That's that because they're building. It's a baby. It's this thing that they give birth to in some senses. So they want to nurture that, and they forget about the wider world. And there's a myopic focus on the tech rather than back the outcomes that they produce.
In terms of customers that we've dealt with in the past, I see that a lot. Even with domain experts too, they sort of get sucked into that world and then into the features and the tech. Not even they may start as this is the problem we're trying to solve, but then you can see that they get pretty quickly sucked into what are the features they're going to build on, what are we building on, etc., etc. So it's a tough one. Give me some examples. I'm sure you got plenty. On this podcast already, we've had probably about 20 or 30 examples of people that have been through that journey, got focused too heavily on the tech and wasted a hell of a lot of money trying to build things. What's some of the things you've seen in your journey?
Oh God. It's hard to say things without wanting to name names, but a lot of it is it starts with this idea of being in tech. But there is a sex appeal to it of some level, I think.
Yeah, the whole nerd thing, I haven't heard it for years. It's been sort of dropped.
No, I think it's the entrepreneur to make a lot of money is the appeal.
Yeah, that's the appeal. It's shifted to that, and then tech has been.
So I don't think they come in wanting to buy an island, but I think they can make a decent living and good money, and fair enough, and they can. There's plenty of opportunity. But like a good, for instance, was one person I spoke to had spent a lot of money. I mean, over $500,000, and had built a website. So a web page version, an Android version, and an iPhone version of the same thing. And
why? Yeah.
Funny enough, I asked the same question, and the answer was because I didn't know any better, and nobody stopped them, right? And this is the problem. And this is why people like me exist, so that people can tell them to stop. But the frightening thing was that they were so obsessed with building a solution that they never built any commercialization into it, and they built the three, and none of them were complete.
Yeah, if you built one complete, there's a commercial model.
One good one would have been a good start. If you just built a web page, and started with a website, and then worked out whether you ever needed to go to a device or not.
I think a lot of that happens because the people don't know the tech space. Like you said, they're tech domain experts. They come in, they don't understand what building software means. And it's a very small group of people who do, because they've been trained to do it through uni, like that's a degree, and they move towards it, or they've been exposed in a lot of different developments. But then it's also, there's not a lot of tech people, like I'd say we're a small category where we're actually providing information and trying to help people so they don't go down that path. a lot of people will just take money from people and do whatever they want.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily that. I think a lot of it is that they're keen to cover their own backside. So the entrepreneur turns up and says, I want one of these. And they go, okay. And they kind of make a spec. And everybody goes, yeah, that looks about right. That's about right. And then they go off. And then they'll do exactly what they're told.
Yeah, they're not there trying to help.
It's the yes people. Yeah. And I think you mentioned one.
Well, you told me to do this. Well, it's supposed to be a collaboration, right? Your job is
and I think that's...
and you do this in the DevReady process, I know. But
I call it...
Yeah, and it's
collaboration.
A lot of them don't. They just go off and say, well, you told me to make this, so that's what I made. Well, it's shit. Mm-hmm. Well, what can I tell you? Yeah, it's that problem of not helping, as you say.
But I think...
Yeah, and that's the same thing you get, like, if a trader comes to your house, you can tell the difference between a trader who wants to help you and a trader who comes in, does the job and leaves.
See,
it's the same thing with the software team. You need the team that's going to help you and work with you.
Yeah, I have a very nice lady who comes to my house once a week. My housekeeper, and she's a fabulous lady, and I would marry her in a heartbeat because she just looks after my world. But she will come in and she will do the jobs that need to be done, as opposed to before when I've hired a cleaner, they come in and they go, no, this is what we do, and there's the distinction between the understanding the context, and it's still doing the same job. Mm-hmm. But it's responding to the situation that you see, as opposed to coming in with a sort of formulaic view of, we're going to do this, bang, 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 bang. We did this, we cleaned this, you didn't tell us to do that, so we didn't do it. And it's like, well, it's covered in shit. Yeah. Surely you should have done it.
You'd think so. Yeah. You mentioned collaboration before, and I like to coin it as more co-creation, because in this space, generally, you need your tech team to be ideating and evolving the way we deliver solutions with you, not just tell us what you want and we'll do it. Because I think, many people have been down that path, built tech, but you want someone on your side that's going to actually dig in, understand what's going on, and advise what your users are actually going to need, not just what you think they're going to need. Because that's where a lot of people get stuck. That's what I've noticed in the industry.
Well, they don't know. When we don't know what we don't know, right? If I were to hire an interior designer, I would expect them.
Yes.
They say, "Well, what colours do you want?" And I'd say, "Well, I don't know. I don't understand colour schemes. I don't understand how these things are put together in the context of this room. So, I'm hiring you to help me. I know the outcome I want, which is a nice, comfortable room to live in, and so on." Surely you can help guide me and guide my thought processes so that we collectively produce the right outcome.
Yeah, that's how it needs to be.
But I think that's important, because that's really what you touch upon there is, if you're a consumer looking to engage a development team, you want to be talking about your outcome, not about what you want to build. And you mentioned it earlier, because then you can help the co-creation space and how we might get there. I think a lot of people jump onto solution very early, but like you said there, in the world of you want someone to come and help and guide you, maybe you don't go to them with a solution. Go to them with, this is the outcome we want to achieve. This is some ideas we've had, but let's open up the conversation, because it opens the door to just a bit more of that creation, that ideation space, because that's where you need to spend a lot more time. I think a lot of people may jump way too early into solution, get the dev on board, and off they go.
Yeah, they do. And the other thing they do is they want to make everything before they go to market. They're chasing perfection or a long way towards it. Now, I know there's the great Reid Hoffman saying, which is if you're not embarrassed, or whatever it was, which is if you're not embarrassed by your first version, you're too late to market. And I understand the sentiment of that. I don't necessarily agree with it explicitly, but it's a valid point. At some point, you've got to get to market. We have this concept called a minimum viable product, and I say, well, people say, well, what is an MVP? And I say, well, the way I translate it for people is I say it's the least that works and delivers value. That gets you to, if you can do that, that's where you need to be. That gets you to market. That's a story you can start getting $1 in the door. But, people say, well, I want to build this, I want to build this, I want to build all these other things. You go, yeah, I'm sure you do. But by the way, developers are, $500 a day or whatever the price might be.
Yes.
And, where's the money coming from? When your MVP goes out the door, who's paying you? Because you haven't, you're not going to go to market and have 10,000 users.
No.
If you've got 5, you've done well.
Yeah, correct.
It's that thing. You still got to eat. You still want a roof over your head and the house to be warm and clothes to wear and all the other stuff. The kids still got to go to school.
I think there's a bit of a balancing act there. Yes, we've got to get something that's really. You still need to get a product that's decent, because in this day and age, people don't put up with crap. But if you spend your energy focusing on those core things and do them well, you're in a much better position than if you spend your energy trying to do 300 things and not doing any of them well. I think that's probably the distinction. Yeah, I think you minimum product, focus all your energy getting the stuff that's important right, getting it usable, in creating that good experience for people. That's going to deliver you more value than trying to build 300, 400, 500 features. It just really doesn't add the value at that level.
Even that, those features should get market tested before you even build them. Once you have a product, what actually people want to use? Or how do they even use your product? Is it different to what you're expecting?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
But you find that when you are building and evolving a product, so you're chatting to your customers, your vision of where the product should go generally isn't what they need. So you need to bang that in the head pretty quickly, because sometimes you can exhaust what you need.
This is a really crucial point, right? This distinction between needs and wants.
Yes.
Because, customer needs change with the weather. Sorry, customer wants change with the weather.
Yes.
It's cold. Oh, I'm cold today. I'll put some, but customer needs don't change. They do, but they're much slower moving, and they're an easier. They're funny. I mean, they're an easier target to hit because they're consistent, and it's wrapped up the back. You just saying just now that in this notion of value, and that for me is the crucial point: is where do you find the value? If you're focusing on building value, then the features you have to make become obvious.
Correct. Yeah, they stand
If you're focusing on building features, finding the value is much harder.
And the never-ending list of features can get overwhelming if you end up in that world. Yeah, it's easier to add a feature to a list and keep building. But who's paying?
Back in the day when I was in industry, I mean, the list of features we had to build, or the list of desired features that people had asked for was in the hundreds. And they were never going to get done. Because they were never important enough. But, you just get insane requests. Oh, can we have this? Can we have that? Can we have this a different colour? Can I have this in bigger letters? It's like,
boy. Yeah. I think when you open up the conversation to feature requests, I think people and customers sometimes they just try and come up with ideas just to give you some. And I think, you got to take that on board and understand where the value is and still dig in on that feature, because maybe something they're saying is correct. Maybe it's something you need to look at. But
if enough people ask for it, then there's probably some truth to it.
Yeah, exactly. But you need to backtest all this stuff. If there's one person asking out of a 10,000 user base, then probably move on.
The problem with the feature list is how they try and rate them.
Yeah.
So
you can have a feature list, but if everything becomes high priority, nothing's high priority.
Well, that's it. But of course, if you listen to your sales guys, their excuse is always, I say always, but irregularly, we can't sell it because we haven't got this feature. I mean, I've spent 20 years in industry hearing that being said. I used to say it myself.
It's a good way out. It's a good excuse, isn't it?
It's a reason for failure, right?
Yes.
But you say, well, okay, do you really want that feature? Do they really want that feature? Is that just an excuse? Is it just a story you're telling me? And it's a real problem because, we end up spending massive amounts of money making stuff that is of no value, or trying and building warts into systems and complicating otherwise relatively sort of straightforward things become complex because we keep putting an extra checkbox in or an extra entry box or whatever it might be. And instead of a single page where you can put in a little bit of information, move on, we end up asking 20 questions. And it doesn't deliver value.
The simpler you can deliver the value, the better. And I think you framed it there because, we can overcomplicate things pretty quickly and put so much on a page where people get confused. But a nice, seamless interface which delivers the value at the end is always going to win over that platform that's got stuff everywhere and no one knows what the hell's going on. Yeah.
Can I have a rant now?
Yeah, rant away, mate. Yeah.
I want to rant about user experience.
Yeah, go for it.
This shits me, and I'll tell you why. And it's a valid conversation, right? And it's a valid point. The people who talk about user experience and simple UI, it must be intuitive. These are meaningless words. It's as meaningful as the phrase digital transformation, which is, the whole point of technology is digital transformation. That's the whole point of it. It's been since you and I were boys, Andy. I was doing digital transformation 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's just it's like the word cloud, right? It's just a buzz marketing.
We're doing it. Now, it's just another bit of spin. And we talk about this idea of UX, and it has to be super simple, intuitive, and all of these words. And what that means is, it needs to be usable. It needs to deliver value. Is what it needs to do.
Correct.
And the reality of this is that some things are inherently complicated.
Correct.
And some UI is just destined to be complicated. So with these broad brush statements, everything must be like this. No, nonsense. Some things just don't fit in this box that we call UX because they are an inherently complicated world. I mean, I built a development tool for a living. Those things are complicated for a reason.
Correct. Yeah.
It's this, and it bothers me because it gets spouted as this sort of panacea and a perfect word. As long as your button's the right size and the text is located correctly and the colours are appealing, then you'll sell loads of product. Well, no, bullshit. Absolutely fucking nonsense.
That just helps the experience.
Yes,
that word, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Even something complicated, if it's got some of those elements, can make it easier to use. That's all it does. It's not. There has to be.
But I think you're
as minimal as possible.
I think you're what you're saying there has some truth, because when you get into the complicated world, people then talk about, how the hell do we simplify this? But sometimes there's no answer. And I think, when you're creating things like you're talking about there, some automated systems that create code and create different applications, there's no real way to make that as seamless and anybody can use it. And that's just the reality of it.
A platform we're working on at the moment, it's replicating a real-world process with like 7 different stakeholders.
Yeah.
And you can't change any of their processes, and the flow has to be exact. It's just
it took months
digitally
to
transformed to be simpler to transfer data. That's the whole system, and to automate some key components. But you can't make it simpler.
No, some things just are complicated.
Yeah, correct.
And that's what we have to deal with. I mean, the rule we used to sort of live by back in my Lancer days was we wanted to make everything possible, but make all, the fat bit of the target, the 80%, make those as reliably repeatable as possible. So there were things that you knew people would do. So I just want to make that bit easy. Help me fill in this command. Help me do whatever it might be. Help me build this layout. There were common abstractions and patterns that we could look at and go, right, that's a good thing to give somebody a chance to be able to do with a couple of clicks. Underneath, that might mean that what we actually produce is 200 clicks worth of stuff.
Correct.
And if they still need to go in and modify that, then we have to make that simple as well. So it's all of it's looking at the process in its entirety and saying, right, how can I best attack this whole thing, rather than a sort of a very myopic view where we look at one little bit and go, that bit's not right, so therefore it is a complicated world, unfortunately.
That's not in the case of platforms and SaaS products. Sometimes they're really easy because the functions are easy and they're simple solutions and they deliver value and they're off and running. In the world of Grammarly, have you seen that UI? That's quite simple, but what it does is one job.
Yeah, it's got one job to do.
Exactly.
Well, we talked about, the last time I was on, we talked about this, which is the thing I said, which has ruined the software industry for us, which is the $5 app.
The $5, because
this has ruined our lives.
Because everyone believes it's cheap to build an app, right? Because it costs $5.
Because it's the $5 app, right? So in Combank, Combank gives their app away, so it must be cheap, right? I mean, Combank will have spent tens of millions of dollars building that thing, and rightly so. And the value proposition for it is exceptional, and it's a very good piece of software. But we have people think, well, that guy made Flappy Birds in a fortnight.
It's a true story.
Yeah, well, he did, and he made $500,000 off it. And good luck to him, and he's done well. But just because he can make Flappy Birds in a fortnight doesn't mean that we can build a SaaS platform in a fortnight.
No,
for the same.
No way.
And I think people,
it's perception. I mean, perception of the industry.
But when you look at what a SaaS platform is, it's a business model wrapped in technology, really. You've got your product, and then you've got your commercialization component with your selling component. You've got your payment gateways. You've got your marketing wrapped in because you need to communicate out. It's a business model wrapped in technology, but then you also got the support staff and everything. I think, that's people get somewhat lost in, all right, we're just going to build the tech, but what the hell else is going on around these things to actually make it sustainable as a business?
People don't understand what's involved.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Like if you're building everything from scratch, in 2 weeks, you'll be lucky to get like a login and authentication system.
That's reality. Yeah.
And that's like, every website does it.
Yes.
Why is it hard?
Yeah.
If you don't do it properly, it's hard.
Yeah, these things. I mean, I'm talking to some people tomorrow. I was having a look at the website that they've got so far, and I thought, I'll go in. And went in and thought I'd clicked a button. Nothing happened, so I thought, well, perhaps I haven't clicked it, so I clicked it again. And what it actually then did was put my details in twice and create 2 records.
Brilliant.
Yeah, because, that's a mistake that we can all make in the software world. It's easy enough to do. Yeah, easy enough to get wrong. And at which point the whole website crashed, and I got, stack trace all over the place. And it was, it was a shambles. And so very, very, very kindly sent it through to the guy and said, this. And he went, we only did that recently. The stuff behind it, we hadn't looked at in 6 months. So all they've done is a new piece of UI has broken.
Yes, the old software.
People just don't get this. This is back to the understanding of the business and the understanding of just the sheer magnitude of the world they're in. Yeah, and particularly, and they're so focused on this MVP and getting to you get them to focus on MVP. So right, come on, we're going to get to market, we're going to get some early customers, and they say, right, by the way, when you release your MVP, you don't stop, you keep moving on. There's a line. Your MVP is your line in the sand, and then there's what I refer to as the maths, which is maintenance, augmentation, training, help, and support. And which the 5 things you're going to have to do for the rest of your life.
Or the business life, or whatever this is, right?
This is the rest of your existence in SaaS, is that you're now going to change what you've already made.
Yep. Throw it
you're
out.
You're going to add shit to it. You're going to write training stuff. You're going to write tutorials, all sorts of documentation. You're going to write lots and lots of help. Myriad stuff, and that you're going to continually change because you can continue to change your platform. And by the way, if you don't do any of that,
you'll be out of business.
Everything you did previously is a waste of time and money because you're not going to sell anything, or you might sell some, but you're not going to keep your clients. They're not going to stay around for very long. They're going to go to somebody else. And it is this enormous. It just gets bigger as well. I mean, I want to do a graphic on this. The size of your business prior to MVP and the size of your business after MVP. It just goes off into the distance.
I think that's a fair point you raised there, because no one is aware of that. I don't think anyone is when we speak to them about what it actually takes to continually maintain a piece of software. They just think you build it, job done, move on.
Build it and they'll come right?
Same philosophy.
I don't even realize there's updates when Apple and Android, say if you're doing a mobile app, when they release a system update, that can just kill your app overnight.
They sort of,
like, people don't realize that there's just things that you use that need to get updated to keep people working properly.
Security is becoming a buzzword too, and rightly so, because security is important, especially when you get down to pertinent data and something that's needs to be protected. And that's something you have to do continuously. There's doesn't matter what you're building your tech in, then there's updates, there's patches, there's all these other things that aren't even adding anything to features to the users.
Yeah, the world's continually changing. Yeah. We once took a feature out. Twice. I remember we took a feature out. One was a formatting option for the source that we had. Various sort of clever wrapping. And we took one out and got a barrage of emails from people saying, how could you possibly take that's the best feature you've got, blah, blah. Jesus, really?
Yeah.
And the other one was we replaced something. So we didn't come to take it out. There was this kind of helper panel that popped up and did a whole bunch of stuff and was god-awful, in truth. Just a horrible idea. I mean, the idea was kind of the idea behind it was good. Mm-hmm. The implementation was a bit mediocre back in the day, and we replaced it with a far superior one. And the result of doing that was somebody sent an email. And it was like, "Oh, thank God that thing's gone and has been replaced." I'm like, oh, yeah,
did something well.
Okay, we didn't realise it was that bad. No, it was fucking terrible. well, nobody told us it was terrible. No, we were getting you get no feedback from people about why things are bad. They just kind of suck it up. Back pain. They just
the silent majority.
I think you get plenty of feedback when things are broken. That's the feedback comes.
If they don't work, fair enough. Yes. If all they are is poor,
you might not get that feedback. Correct.
You don't hear about it. People don't tell you. Mm-hmm. And eventually you said this guy, well, why was it poor? What was it about it you didn't like? Help us understand. And he said, well, it had a tree on the left-hand side, and it didn't remember its state when you closed it and reopened.
Oh.
And that was the killer feature. That was the one thing. Like, let me at it. Nobody had told you so. We could have fixed that, and no problem.
No time.
But nobody told us.
Yeah. That's the world of software and evolution, right? And you need to be in front of your customers, and they may not tell you. It's true. You need to be always at the front of what they might be thinking, and then also then bringing things to them around what they might be thinking, and then validating that. Because you don't want to just build stuff either. Because get back to the whole feature thing, right? In terms of give some advice, someone that's a domain expert or a tech person about to jump into this brilliant idea that they have. What's the one thing that we start with, mate? What would you recommend?
Put the keyboard down. First thing, stop. Just stop. No, I mean, well, yeah, but I mean, seriously, for me, number one, clearly articulate the problem, because this simple articulation of the problem is going to drive everything you do in terms of the coding effort that you make. And it's going to fundamentally underpin every single bit of marketing and external exposure that you've got. Every conversation you have will be about the problem. So identify the problem and then identify whose problem it is. When you have those two so clearly articulated that you can walk up to somebody and say, this is the problem I'm going to solve, and these are the people who've got the problem, then you've got a business. Then you've got the core of a business, and you can start from there.
And that's any business.
But after that, it's then really do some investigation, do some work, write everything down. Make sure that before you go to somebody to build something for you, you know as much as you can possibly know. Now, I'm doing a little bit of work at the moment with a lady who's building she's an architect. And she currently is my sort of record holder for the most amount of preparation work done.
I like them.
Hasn't gone anywhere near a developer yet. It has reams and reams of paper on the idea and the problem that she's solving.
You don't see that very often.
That's where you've got to be. This idea that you can go to a developer and say, "I want to make one of these," and goes, "Yeah, okay." So one of my tragic tales is a lady I know who went to a developer and said, "I want to build one of these." He went, "Yeah, I can do that." About 20 grand. And 160 grand later. And you know, if you've got 160 grand, that's okay, and you can wear it, and it's a parking ticket in the scheme of things, because you can make $1 downstream and everything's fine. If you haven't got 160 grand and you spend the 100 that you've got, and you're still 60 short and you haven't gone to market,
you just blew 100 grand.
It's gone bye-bye, because people don't buy code. They don't buy IP.
No one's interested in that.
They'll start again. Nobody wants to come and fix your code.
And it tells you a lot about where the value really is. Just that comment there. They don't buy the code. They want the outcome solved and customers paying. That's where the value in anything is. It's not about the code. Yeah, you might have. Yeah, that's a fair point.
But there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Even the relationship they have with their developers. Like how do you find a good development shop? How do you choose? If you're not from the development world, how do you choose a development shop? I mean, these are people you're getting into bed with for a protracted length of time. For many, many years, you're going to spend, assuming a level of success, millions of dollars, quite literally millions of dollars. How do you choose?
If you're judging on price, that's not the way to do it.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think we're inside the industry, right? So we understand what to sort of ask,
I think most people look at like the relationship they have with whoever they're talking to. If they're looking at the price, it's definitely the wrong way to do it.
Oh, well.
And even that, you can't even compare one quote from a developer and estimate between another one.
Especially when it's nothing.
Everyone's got their own thought process, how to do it, how to architect it, how to design it. It's not comparable.
No. I mean, I've got some IP on this. Various posts on how to pick a development team. But I mean, even being in the industry, it's hard.
It is hard, because I think one of the key things that you want to work with any developer is basically ensure that they're helping you with the ideation and want to be a part of the journey and add value to it. If they're just happy to take your whatever you say and provide a dollar figure to you, that is a big issue. Walk away. So get the team that just wants to help you get to the outcome, understand it, inquisitive. I think there's some key attributes around being inquisitive because in the end, if they're going to serve, they need to understand what you're up to. And if you've gone about it right in the right way, in the right thinking too, because that's probably some of the key things you want to be looking for.
Well, this touches on another subject. So I'm doing some work at the moment with a lady by the name of Sarah Denham, who is she coaches people on how to speak on stage, amongst other things. But some of the work that she does is helping non-technical staff deal with their communication issues with technology teams.
Interesting work. Okay.
She and I are putting together a workshop.
Yeah, brilliant.
For businesses, so that because there's this communication gap is a real problem. Because we use words in our industry that we understand that have a whole meaning to them, and the domain specialists will come in with their own language that we don't understand, and vice versa. We're naturally speaking a different language, so we have to bridge that gap to start with. That's a really important thing.
I agree. There's a language barrier, but I think what I've found is when the founders get really stuck is when there's no level of detail within what they're doing. So to get to a piece of software, you need significant detail process needs to be defined. If they're not they're not that way inclined, that's when they're in a world of pain because they need to really hand that information over, share, create that information with the team. The team can't just do everything. And I think without digging in and understanding the industry. So I think that's one of the things that I see as one of the biggest issues. It's the people that are more big picture thinking, that aren't technical, and then don't know how to document the process or even communicate the process. I think that's a bigger issue than the technical gap. I think that can be closed.
Yeah, and the team should be able to communicate and explain everything. If they can't do that, they're not communicating with you well enough.
Yeah, but the ability to speak in plain English is not one that people are necessarily blessed with.
No, not in this industry.
But that's the thing. That's a red flag for the team then. If they can't talk to you and explain and communicate about what you are, the software, what you're talking about, or how things are going to get made, then that should bring up a flag for you straight away.
But I'm not familiar with your development team, but I'm going to say there's a lot. I'm going to hazard a guess that there's quite a few of them you wouldn't let out the door in front of the
There's a couple that are hidden behind the curtain. You guys are reasonably clearly quite articulate, But the language barriers can be addressed, right? I mean, there are techniques you can. One of my favourite ones is to make a glossary. Just come up with a glossary of terms. So everybody knows that when we have a conversation, these are the terms we're going to use. These are the ones that everybody gets familiar with. And again, I mean, that's massively valuable then later on in the piece when you start writing your documentation and start building out something from a sort of customer fronting point of view, because you've already got a set of terms that everybody's going to use and everybody's familiar with, and you get to tell the story. But it's a real challenge. And one of the interesting things that comes out of this is a power dynamic. There's a curious insight that Sarah and I have had that quite often what you get is non-technical people going to talk to the tech team, and because they don't understand the tech, they feel that they can't really sort of force themselves
on the technicians. And so you have this power imbalance where the technical guy actually rules the roost, and which is the wrong way around. It should be the business, the commercial side coming along saying, this is the problem I have, this is what I'm going to need, you now have to solve that for me. But they don't, because they don't understand the technology. They feel sort of beholden to the technology.
You get that a lot with even our customers and clients. They just say, "Oh, I don't understand the tech. You need to help me with this," and they just they let that go. And I think but they understand the business better than we do, and that's important, absolutely. And that's the most important bloody thing. It's not about the tech. It's they understand the business of the domain better than we're ever going to. They can pass information to us, but in reality, we don't have the depth and breadth of knowledge that they do. So I think they need to stand on that.
Yeah, one of the stories I tell is a mate of mine was doing some work and he's sitting in a meeting and they're talking about revolvers.
Why? Just a chat.
He's like, what, like guns?
Yeah, that's what
and eventually, after however long, he's like, "What's a revolver?" And these are the people who pay at the beginning of the month. Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's that kind of assumed knowledge where we just assume everybody understands, and if people aren't prepared to put their hand up and say, "What are you on about?"
Yeah, that's
then it all drifts along. So I mean, this is why I say for founders at the beginning is stop. We don't get involved in the technology. Forget the technology. Work out how this all works, and then insert the technology afterwards. It's that kind of idea where we have to take a step back and make sure we understand the big picture. And Sarah and I have put this to help. So a good idea on this one is that it's a bit like looking at a jigsaw puzzle. The commercial side of the business will look at the picture. The technical side will look at the pieces and how they fit together. When we get them to work together, what we get is a really good outcome. But you've got these two different approaches to the same thing.
Yeah, no,
that's a great way to describe it.
Yeah, that's what I described before. The person might be big picture and about painting the picture, but I think that's a great way to describe it and leave people to think about that, because you do need to get to the little pieces in the puzzle to deliver the bloody thing. So really good insights there, Stu.
Yeah. If anyone wants to find out any more information on that event that you're organising,
which one?
Oh, the one with Sarah that you're saying you're organising.
It's a workshop that we're putting together, so it's not finished yet. It's a work in progress, but I think it's going to be really valuable for a lot of businesses because that gap exists.
I think it's important, just to bring it to the front.
I should be sure to shout about it.
I'm sure you'll be all over LinkedIn.
We'll echo that for you.
We might be able to make a couple of bucks with this one, so it could be a good idea.
Very cool. Oh, Stewart, as always, mate, been a pleasure just chewing the fat a little bit today, just talking a bit about SaaS and the world of tech and some of the things we've learned along the journey. So thanks for coming on and sharing just a bit about your background and history and what you've learned in the space. And I think there's some key takeaways there for people to really stop. I think you mentioned just stop, put the keyboard down and really dig in on the problem, understand it, understand even the niche. I think we go back to that world, your customer, dig in there. And it is a business. And I think understand that there's many pieces to the puzzle, not just the technology. So really good having you on board.
And make sure you've got enough money.
It's always cost more than you think. That's something, or to put at the end to finish this episode off. So thanks, Stuart. Really appreciate it. We'll share it, obviously, your LinkedIn credentials as we share at the post. But appreciate you coming on board. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Stuart.
Cheers, mate.
See you next time.